bit, and we're going to bring out our filmmakers. Wasn't that an extraordinary and powerful and incredible story? Please welcome writer, director Finn Taylor and producer Noah Lang.
Sorry, I only did it because we shot on 2 continents, so there's a lot of credits, and they all did an amazing job. You can see them there.
Well, and I just because of how emotional this was, I'm actually going to wait to give you your father's award if that's okay, because I think people. Well, yeah, that too. Yes, have a seat. This is wonderful. I'm going to go out to the audience because they're going to have questions, but I'd like to fire kind of the first one. Tell us about the genesis of this film and how you discovered this, created it, wrote it,
Yeah.
took it here, and where did Noah come along?
Janine Thomas is the producer, and she found out about Herbert. She lived in Marin at the time and befriended him, and heard his story, and then saw him speak to rooms full of teens, and saw what a massive impact. She herself has 3 teenage daughters and a teenage son, and she had seen a couple of my films. I had I think at that time it was Unleash or Canopolis. She approached me to write the script. I'm a screenwriter, and I met Herbert, and they had tried screenwriters before, 1 or 2, but it was her concept to have the story of one of the affected teens combined, which to me is what made it compelling. So when I met Herbert, that sort of sealed that deal. He opened up to me. I interviewed him and his family for years. We wrote the script. It came time to make the film, and to my surprise, Janine asked me to direct it. I had directed a lot of films, but I think she did because we were on that journey together, and
Sure.
so that's how that happened.
What year did that all start? How many years did you have with Herbert before he passed?
My film, I think it was Canopolis, was at, I think Mill Valley Film Festival 2017. It was at the Met that year, and MoMA, so at least 2016 or 2017 is when we started. And, his daughters, he has identical twin daughters, which is kind of ironic. They're about my age. And that is the way he told them. He simply handed them a DVD. And when I said, why do you think he waited so long to tell you? They said, I don't know, will you ask him for us? And then they asked us to do kind of like a family group therapy session. And I said, I'm not a therapist. And Janine said, I am. I have a degree in therapy. And, it was quite a journey. And knowing that the family loved the representation of their father and his story was wonderful.
Thank you. Noah, how did you come along to the project? And then how did your dad come along to be cast?
Well, so what initially happened in terms of him becoming involved, as far as I understand it, was our casting directors, Sig De Miguel and Steve Vincent, who I've known for many years and have done several films with. They'd always been a big fan of his and had put him in films. And somewhere along the way, through his agency, I believe it was Abby Bluestone at Innovative, was like, you guys would be crazy not to offer this role to Steven. And I think there was that's an interesting idea sort of thought that happened there. And then I think, I'll let Finn speak to it, but there was probably a bit of like a rush of, oh man, right, all those things he's done, not just Colonel Quaritch, not just The Blind Man, So I think there was it happened pretty organically in that regard. And that's sort of, in my experience, how anything happens in the industry is that someone has an idea, momentum gathers, and then suddenly you're just kind of pulling the thread on, the loose thread on the pants, and then suddenly you're pantsless and Stephen Lang's in your movie. Yeah.
And it truly is collaborative. Sig and I have worked together on a few films, and when he said it, I was like instantly, my mind was blown, because most actors that age of Stephen's skill, who also are Jewish, they played similar enough roles that just seeing them in it, you already know the movie. Whereas Stephen, because in film he's played so many heavies, but in theater he's done everything. He was perfect. He could create Herbert as he was, as with less baggage than some other actors his age, that also, that you normally would have thought of. And it just, once I heard it, I was like, yes, we have to get him.
Well, he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And the young lady, and you gave me her name, and I'm blanking on it now.
Elsie Fisher.
Thank you, Elsie Fisher. How did she come onto the project? How did you cast
Well,
her?
I saw the film Eighth Grade, which I loved. She was the lead of it, and she was so brilliant in it. She was 13 at the time. It was a Bo Burnham film, and she was playing a chubby, long, blonde-haired girl with insecurities and acne, and who had a crush on a boy. So I just knew from that acting I wanted her. Then when she showed up, she has a boyfriend now, but at that time she was, I think, as many young people are now, figuring out who she was. And I didn't alter one note of the script, and it actually helped the script in a way, because that relationship with her friend, I had a film I also wrote, Dream of the Fishes. I myself, as a young person, when I was 19, I attempted suicide. And I had a friendship. I made a film about it called Dream of the Fishes, where it was very intense. We thought we were the only two people in the world that got along, and while it was not a sexual relationship, it was a very loving relationship, and that's kind of what I was going for. So what Abby brought to it, who she was at that moment in time, just had a confluence that was very right for the script.
Oh, this is an amazing, beautiful film, and I think that your choice to include a teenager was amazing, because this would have just been another Holocaust story, because there's a million of those stories. What I wanted to know was the carving on the fence. Was that true, and were you really there?
Everyone asked that question. Well, I was at Auschwitz, and for sure, and Terezin for sure. In fact, the Terezin scenes are shot in Terezin. What I tried to do with the film several times was to connect the teenage Herbert with the teenage Abby. Unfortunately, that was an act of writing, because when we went to Terezin, I saw I'll call them cells, these dank rooms, writing at the height in the hand. I knew as a child who had done it, and I saw those everywhere. At Auschwitz-Birkenau, you didn't see many of those. So I did that as a way of connecting Abby with Herbert. But so much, all these other things are very true and accurate with Herbert. The finding the pack in the snow, waiting for the days, the getting on the train, the Gestapo with the dogs, Mrs. Kroll hiding him, all of these things. But I added that one bit in to try and connect the two of them. And that scene where she's touching it, we had to do that in California. And because the grass is not green at Birkenau, but we did the best we could on our limited budget to recreate.
The first play I ever wrote was about Anne Frank before the family went into hiding.
Yeah.
So Anne was somewhat free to do what she wanted. Are you going to be showing this or giving this to high schools? Because what I'm finding out is that a lot of schools don't even cover the Holocaust.
Yeah, no, we hear this from teachers all over the country, and because of the age I am, and maybe many of us are, my parents were over in Europe during the war, and we all know about it. But I show this to young people, the trailer, and they're like, there were death camps. A huge percentage of young people think there were 2 million Jews killed in the war. A fraction of what was really killed. 25% in some states, people under the age of 20 think the Holocaust is a myth. So it's very frightening. And I do agree with you about the teenage story, because what Herbert did, and you can see a little bit in the clip of the real Herbert at the end, he told his story to so many people, and the first time he spoke, a girl who was suicidal came up to him, and always, without exception, the kids who are harming themselves would come to him. A, because of his story, but B, I think because of who he was as a person, the generosity and gentleness he had, with it Stephen portrayed so well.
Question right here.
I'm just going to echo what everyone has said. It was just so touching. I'm from Cincinnati, which is, right, the heart of Jewry.
Yeah.
We have the Hebrew College there. We have the David Wolf Holocaust Museum, and I grew up with a lot of folks of Jewish faith.
Yeah.
They gave Herbert to my mother as a single black woman who was going to school at a Christian school and they got rid of her because she was pregnant with me.
Wow.
So I'm really affected. And I met my first survivor of the Holocaust around the age of 14. And I took Latin and I said to her something about humanis, and my mother used to say that humanity should never be used with the Latin because of what happens in this world. But you showed in this film true humanity, and I thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Tell us about the young man who played young Herbert.
Luke David Bloom, he was that role. We probably saw more kids than any role in the film. A lot of them in very famous films, a lot of good young actors. But he auditioned for me. He sent an audition on tape, COVID, etc. And it was the scene where he's listening to Victor Ullmann play at Terezin. And you could see the emotion in him before he ever said his first line. He's the lead in a movie called Lost on a Mountain in Maine. He's been in a bunch of other films, and he's an incredible actor. I mean, one thing I can say is the first time Robin Wiegert, who played the therapist, who's an amazing veteran actor, much like Stephen is, she saw it for the first time at our screening in New York, and all she could talk about in the Q&A was Luke's performance. He's one of those rare talents that he's just such a natural. His father is also an actor. His father played the postman that said, "Stop in the name of the Postal Service." That was his father.
I saw someone's hand up, and I can't remember where I saw it now. If you had your hand up, please raise it again, and maybe we already answered your question. Tell us about the soundtrack as well. The soundtrack of the film was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Soundtrack was done by my cousin Jenny Scheinman, who's a famous violinist, done a few of my films. She also worked with Rob Berger and Mark Orton, who did the score for the great film that came out last year. I can't remember the name of it. It was in a private school in the 70s, blah, blah, blah. The Holdovers, yes. Anyway, so the score we did, here's an example. So Jenny's Jewish, I'm not, she's my cousin, but there was a scene with the hair at Auschwitz. Auschwitz was the camp where they shaved the corpses. They didn't do that at all the camps. A very intense scene. She had a cut there, which I really liked. And she said, I went to my rabbi, and my rabbi said, no, that one is used to celebrate the weddings of young brides in Jewish culture. And I thought it still kind of works, but her rabbi said absolutely not. So Jenny picked something else, which was better. But there was that kind of detail throughout that was helpful and led us on the right path. And then I incorporated some modern songs. The leap I took was I had a modern song by Jeff Tweedy, When Herbert's Going Back to Prague, because again, that was my attempt to connect the young Herbert with the teenage Abby.
Well, it was beautiful, absolutely beautifully done. Noah, talk about your role as producer and what your specific responsibilities were, and did that overlap with working with your father, for example, or was that mostly on set with?
This all came very, very much later, which was that I got a call from George Rush, one of our other producers, who's an old friend of mine. He's done legal work for me, associate producer on movies of mine, and wanted to show me the film. I was, thrilled to see it because I had, been told so much about it, and my father had had such a good experience making it. And after I watched it, I called George, and he basically was like, would you be open to sitting down with Janine? She's the lead producer. We're trying to sort of unpack next steps with this film. It feels really important. So we sat down. I ended up talking to Janine for 2 or 3 hours in Los Angeles. And basically it was just, I worked in distribution and sales when I first started my career at a company called Cinetic, which is sold everything from Bowling for Columbine to Precious to Little Miss Sunshine, Safety Not Guaranteed, enormous movies. So I had a lot, and we had distributed movies like Exit Through the Gift Shop and Senna, and so I knew the world very well and had self-distributed a couple of films, and we basically just started talking about figuring out how to kind of protect a movie and make sure it didn't get kind of lost in the shuffle, which has happened to films my father has been in that were really wonderful. And sort of set off this sort of odyssey where we ended up all kind of coming together in terms of me helping to deliver the film, in terms of like legal deliverables and picture and sound, and as well as kind of working with Finn and Janine and everybody in terms of festivals, and then kind of starting to field distribution offers and things like that, which is finally settled out, and the film will be available widely in the fall in September, so, which is wonderful, and it'll be available theatrically in a significant way. So that's how that all kind of came about. Which was I've never done before, come in so late, but was really grateful that she asked, and it's been, you know, I'm Jewish, my family's Jewish, my wife is Israeli, and it was really just special to me to be able to be involved in something that dealt with my background so much. So it was, it felt like a great gift, the same way that it was for my father, and the same way he feels about it.
I'm assuming, are you distributing through Greenwich, which is the one we booked it with, or are you able to-
Greenwich has helped us with so much with festivals, and they've been wonderful, and what a great company. I feel like we have an embarrassment of riches with companies. Janine is going with an expanded group for the domestic because she wants a slightly bigger release than Greenwich usually does domestically, but Greenwich has helped us. Film's been seen all over the world, in Russia and Norway. It's been doing a big tour of Australia. We've won awards in Paris, and that's all due to Odette Horowitz and Ed at Greenwich.
I might suggest also, just as a little tip for this, there's a couple companies who make films like this available on Holocaust Remembrance Day, put it in theaters around the world, and we would be
Wow.
honored to be part of that.
Oh.
And we will bring this back theatrically as well when you release it.
Oh,
to
great.
our
Thank
theaters.
you so much,
fantastic.
Patrick.
It's a powerful
Thank you so
powerful
much.
film. Question up here in the balcony.
Just curious on the rehearsal process for this and how it informed your abilities to really capture those true emotional moments that were so special throughout the film.
Even with veteran actors like her, Stephen and Elsie, I did do rehearsals. I do sort of strange stuff. I do some kind of meditation exercises, and I played on my mandolin score that I thought would be like the film. They're so veteran, I try not to interfere too much. I had to do more intense rehearsals in Europe because Luke was young. I knew it was going to be intense material. Well, I had actors there from England and the Czech Republic and all over Eastern Europe. So we did more intensive rehearsals there. Stephen and Elsie, I did some stuff I've done in the past with even veterans like Winona Ryder and Joseph Fiennes. And it's just trying to get past the business end of it and into the center and the heart, and just try to unify on our tone. But they're all such veterans. I just need to not get in the way and support them the best I can. And also, I just want to say about Noah, in the past, on a lot of my indies, it was always my deal, my show. I did kind of everything. On this one, Janine was calling shots and had beautiful vision, but she's not a veteran. So having a veteran like Noah help with the distribution of the film has been so important.
Just, if you guys want to hear a quick aside, since my father isn't here, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories of his, which is my father's very close with the actor Ron Perlman. They go back to the 70s in the theater scene, have done a number of things together. And speaking of rehearsal, in the late 90s, he did a Showtime sci-fi movie called A Town Has Turned to Dusk from a Bay Area filmmaker named Rob Nielsen.
Oh, I love Rob.
Yeah, brilliant, yeah. And they had budget for him and Ron to fly in the day before day one and rehearse that day. So they had basically an afternoon. And so Rob brought them into a room, and he sat down and he said to my father, "You're a colt," and to Ron, "You're a wolf." And then he stopped talking, and that's what they did for hours on end. And I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever heard. And you only have so much time to do something, and it's like, start somewhere. Why not there? It's the dynamic of the movie. So when he told me that, I was like, I get that. That's really cool. Anyway, yeah.
I was so inspired by Ron, Bay Area guy. Rob Nielsen was one of the first guys to shoot features on video. All these, won the USA Film Festival, did so many films, and that's how you learn. Eventually you get to this place that you're just talking about. And there's August filmmakers and actors here in the audience. I feel honored to be around you guys, and I'm perpetually learning from all these amazing actors and filmmakers around that I get to meet at festivals.
Well, speaking of amazing actors, Miss Diane Baker has a question for you.
No, it's even more than a question. This is a profound film for today, especially now. And having done The Diary, it was my first film, I can only so fully connect that I could hardly sit here. I was ready to leap.
Yeah.
I'm still very emotional film. And it stays with you the rest of your life. So if that film, The Diary, could reach millions and millions of people around the world, and it's still important.
Very.
They're trying to get it out of the schools and areas of renting, getting it, but still, it's profound and it will last forever. I think this is a film to follow. That film, because of the educational aspects that was just brought up over here. Very important to get this into schools at young ages. Young ages. This is connected to today. And you did it so brilliantly.
Diane, I'm fainting
Every
at your
single
praise.
one of the people.
You are like one of my favorite actors in the world. I'm fainting at your praise, and
I'm
my
sitting
producer.
Here I have almost no words, and that's unusual for me, actually.
Oh,
So seriously, you really deserve, and you're so humble about the whole experience.
Well-
Because, Melvin Douglas taught me something in acting, and that is, you can't watch yourself acting. You have to be beyond it, into the outside, into the world that you're trying to tell the story.
yeah,
That story is more important than you.
yeah.
And you did that. You transported me beyond the self, where it became the reality for me while I was sitting here. It became real to me. Just
Well, thank you
sitting
so
here
much.
from the outside, I felt like I was inside.
Well, thank you. I've just
So
learned
important.
from people like you to get out of the way and let the story lead the way. Thank you so much. It means. And by the way, my producer Janine has a huge plan for schools. That's one of her top priorities. Being the mother of 3 teenage girls and a teenage son, it's top priority for her. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm coming over here. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up by presenting. And I'm so glad your dad is so busy. He is a very busy working actor, I will say, and honored that he connected us, because it was because of Stephen Lang and because of Jeremy Spracklin that we put this all together. Will you help me?
Yes.
Finn? 'Cause
Yes.
I meant to have this unwrapped before I did, but
Yes.
got caught up in the credits.
Yes.
So we are presenting. This is so fancy, isn't it?
It's exciting. It's more exciting.
No, it's like
like an
unwrapping.
unboxing on YouTube.
So we are presenting our 2025 Outstanding Actor Award to Stephen Lang in honor of your passion and dedication to acting and your commitment to the art of independent filmmaking, in recognition of your outstanding career of bringing memorable characters to life on stage and screen, and in appreciation of your devotion to projects that make a difference for more than 4 decades. Outstanding actor for Avenue of the Giants and his entire body of work, Mr. Stephen Lang.
Thank you.
I'm not off book because I'm not the actor in the family, but I do take after my dad in liking to hear myself talk. So some of this will be a little redundant because I thought this was happening before. Hello, everybody. I want to thank you for being here with us tonight to watch this beautiful film. A timely, important, and increasingly vital film for what it says about this current moment of duress in our culture, both with regards to a traumatic past and the nature of trauma today. My name is Noah Lang, and I'm here to accept this award on behalf of my father, Stephen Lang, for his work in the film you all just watched. He wishes he could be here, but as a working actor, even at the spry age of 72, he's often called away to the trenches of filmmaking, and when the call comes, you pick up the phone. Speaking on his behalf, the opportunity to portray a man as inspiring, humble, and powerful as Herbert Heller was a gift. Actors don't always get the opportunity to embody parts of such depth, grace, and impact. And in the current climate of filmmaking, stories and characters like these could not be more important. My father is most often associated with villains, as an actor who can instill humanity and depth into characters that we are not supposed to like, sometimes even hate. He always has said that his job as an actor is to love them, because no one else probably does. So if he can love them, he can instill something special into the work. But that wasn't the case here. Here he was able to live in the skin of a survivor who never saw himself as a victim, a man who lived his life with dignity and was driven by acts of service, someone who when anyone would meet would feel privileged for having had the opportunity. As my father's son, I've watched his career closely from my earliest memories, and so much of it was filled with disappointment and sometimes even anger. Why was he not getting the opportunities I knew he deserved? Why was it such a dogfight to be seen, to be recognized with roles he was offered? Over time, I was able to compartmentalize that and realize that lacking control is part and parcel to the business as I entered it myself. Our entire family is immensely grateful for the opportunities he now has been afforded for the latest chapters of his career, varied and diverse in nature. Avenue of the Giants was a chance for a Jew from Queens to get to breathe cinematic life into someone deserving of being known widely to filmgoers everywhere. Not just deserving, but in many ways a necessary representation for audiences of all ages to understand our need for empathy, kindness, reconciliation, and reverence for the past so as to embrace the present and build a better future. So again, on behalf of my father, I want to thank you all for being here, especially thank the entire staff and organizers of the festival for having us and for allowing us this opportunity. This award means a tremendous amount to him and is representative of the work put into representing Herbert for the man he was and the enduring impact of his life on everyone he met and those that will be touched by his story as a result of this film. It's a privilege he does not take lightly. My thanks and gratitude. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Noah Lang, ladies and gentlemen. Finn Taylor. They'll be outside if you have some more questions for them. Don't forget to vote. Remember, 5 is the best. Give 'em to